it became apparent that we were going to have to clear the dryer vent. And the dryer vent is about 40 feet long. It runs from the second story of our house down through the first floor and horizontally along a floor joist in the basement for about 20 feet. So in order to do that, I split the hose that you're looking at here because it's part flexible hose, which is not the best, but I split the hose so that I could treat the horizontal and the vertical runs of this separately.
So this is the dryer vent exit from our house. It's at the bottom of the house, and the dryer is actually on the third floor. This exits from the very top of the basement. You can see some lint that I've pulled out, and I pulled that out with this flexible brush, not on a drill, but just by running this flexible brush in and out of this horizontal run of the dryer vent. What I'm going to do now, because I've brushed it, and because it also is part metal and part flexible dryer hose, is I am going to send compressed air into the basement, and that's just a passageway I have for that. I'm going to send compressed air in, and I'm going to seal the end of that 4-inch pipe, recognizing that I'm not going to create much pressure or vortex, but anything that's loose floating around in there, given that I was able to scrub all of that out with this brush on the end of these 2-foot flexible sections, and I've got about 25 feet of that total. And I did not, again, connect that to a drill. Given that I've been able to loosen and pull out that much on the horizontal run, I believe when I run some air through, I'll catch some more in this screen that'll drop out, and then I can measure, kind of get a picture for the volume. And I wish I could look straight down through there, but the hose does take a dive. So I'll go down and look at that next. So the dryer vent actually comes in, difficult to see, but it actually comes in right there, and it runs along the floor joist beyond the furnace, and the horizontal run here I separated from what is actually the vertical run. So I'm going to run compressed air in this horizontal run and see if I can knock like those loose pieces, send them out the other end. So even though I was able to create a pretty good seal around my hand and run compressed air in that, it's a 4-inch hose, and so there was never much air pressure or much air movement, and I don't expect much to have come out the other side. We'll go outside and look. So it's difficult to see, but there is evidence here that the air moved a little bit of stuff. This is really light here, and it did move a lot of light lint. Toward the end, I don't know that I got more out, but I'm just going to run the brush back in and out there a few times. So here's the brush in from the outside on the horizontal run, and there's a little bit of lint still in there. I can run that in and out a few times. I'm catching a little more lint maybe in this bag, but essentially I've taken all the biggest pieces of lint out of the horizontal run that I'm going to be able to. So I'll finish filling the bag, and we'll take a look at how much came from the horizontal run, and then we'll move to the vertical run. So I did ultimately run the brush through this horizontal run using a drill. And I didn't run it at high speed, I ran it at low speed, but what I found was, as I was withdrawing, and very careful to run that drill only clockwise so that I don't accidentally unscrew one of the sections of my brush, what I found was that I was able to pull a fair chunk of lint out even with the even after I had run the brush a lot. So the total lint that came out of the horizontal run is about that much in a garbage bag, which isn't a terrible amount, but it is, that much less fire hazard in that horizontal run. So we'll move on to the vertical run now. So just running the brush by hand up through the vertical run, which has a restriction right there at the floor, actually has a restriction I could tell when I ran the brush up and down. Just running that brush up and down there several times has yielded that much lint. And the flexibility of this brush is key. I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to take a look behind the dryer and see about the connections up there. Okay, so I have been driving the brush or drilling the brush clockwise, trying to drive it all the way up through the vertical run. And at the top of the vertical run is a 90-degree turn to come out of the wall. And I have not seen it come out of the wall upstairs yet. So what I'm going to do is this. I am going to drive the brush from this side with the drill up and down 2, 3, 4 times, continue to pull more dryer lint out. Then I'm going to start at the top and come down from the wall down and see if I can make the corner up there, that 90 degree up there. Well, there's the dryer vent in, and my brush was stopping. I pulled that section right there and tried to run the brush down, and I tried to run the brush up from below, and the brush was stopping dead right about at the floor level. So I decided and thermal imaging showed nothing but a mess. So I decided that I really should open up an access passage, and lo and behold, the flexible tubing that runs the flexible flexible vent that runs to the basement was disconnected, and the wall was full of all this lint. And although, because of the way the wall was built, there was still air passage, it certainly wasn't collecting the lint and sending it out there, sending the dryer certainly wasn't vented the way it should be. In fact, from downstairs, I could feel the airflow, but it wasn't much airflow. Anyway, I think we're going to have to reconnect the vent here after making sure that everything is scrubbed out well. So our course of action has been to abandon the original flange because it was not just an elbow, a 4-inch elbow, it's actually a flange that mounts to the inside of the wall, so it can't be pulled out. I was going to pull it out and put a 4-inch section of pipe in that hole and thread it up, but instead, and send the elbow up and turn the elbow sideways to set it up above. Instead, the dryer vent is actually angled quite well out of the dryer, and I brought the dryer vent down, cut a hole, or used the hole that was existing. The inspection hole I had to cut, put 2 elbows and connected those elbows, one to the vent at the dryer and one to the flexible pipe down below, spliced the flexible pipe down in the basement, and this dryer now vents for probably the first time in 10 years. This is thermal imaging from the hallway on the other side of that vent, and what I see is the entire wall space between the studs elevated in temperature, but the hot spot down at the bottom is the elbow, the 4-inch elbow, and I would expect some radiant heat to light up the inside of that wall. I wish I had saved the thermal image that I had originally just so we could see and compare, but it was so strange looking it didn't dawn on me that the pipe had separated.